Bonjour à tous. Je ne sais pas qui est le plus déçu, si c'est vous ou moi, que je ne sois pas le ministre des Finances et commissaire de l'exposition. Mais comme vous le savez, Nadia Ftah a été nommée par Sa Majesté comme ministre des Finances il y a quelques jours et elle a d'énormes dossiers sur la table, donc elle n'est pas avec nous aujourd'hui. Pour la remplacer très avantageusement, elle a désigné Siamat Barqad qui prononcera le discours. En 2 minutes, je vais vous dresser un peu le panorama de ce qu'on va essayer de faire pendant cette heure et demie où on sera ensemble. Et on parlera indifféremment en français et en anglais selon les invités que nous avons. Donc nous avons une première séquence qui va être celle des discours d'ouverture. So we will start with opening speeches from the officials. Ensuite, le lancement de la nouvelle marque économique du Maroc, ce qui nous réunit tous aujourd'hui. Notre pays auquel nous sommes tous extrêmement attachés et qui ouvre une nouvelle séquence avec cette marque économique qui s'appelle Morocco Now. Et ensuite, nous allons avoir 4 témoignages exceptionnels. Alors, Jules Verne avait inventé le tour du monde en 80 jours. Nous, on va vous faire les 4 points cardinaux en 40 minutes en ayant un grand témoin venant de l'Ouest, un grand témoin venant de l'Est, un grand témoin du Nord et un témoin du Sud pour montrer que le Maroc
to showcase that Morocco is putting itself at the transatlantic level, Mediterranean, but also southeast, and continues digging deep in the oceans towards Africa. So without further ado, I call Mr. Imad to give the speech of the Commissioner of the Exposition. You have the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Like Mr. Malik said, I will read for you the speech of Excellency the Minister, the General Commissioner. She apologized for not being with you, and she would have liked to share with you this remarkable moment. So I will try to read the speech in English because I see there's some English speakers in the room, so we can see it in French and English.
President of General Confederation of Enterprises of Morocco, CGM, His Excellency the Ambassador, His Excellency the Ambassador of Morocco, Mr. CEO of the Moroccan Agency of Investment and Export Development, Honorable Assistants, good morning. First of all, I would like to thank you for coming all the way to Dubai and be with us in person today to attend this opening of the Economic Morocco Week. I would like also to thank warmly all the attendees that are following us on live streaming. I'm delighted to meet you here in the Morocco Pavilion, the pavilion that illustrates that profound expertise and know-how of our country within the Dubai Expo 2020. This exposition will unite more than 190 countries with more than 20 to 25 million visitors around the world under the motto of connecting minds, building the future. Morocco will be present, though, a series of economic, cultural, artistic, and scientific events organized all along the Dubai Expo agenda, the week that we are launching today with the slogan, Morocco, a global hub for investment. That will be the occasion to expose the investment and trading opportunities in all international contexts marked by the climate change issues as well as the transformation of global value chains. Through this exceptional character, its international dimension, and its media coverage, the Dubai Expo 2020 is the ideal platform to promote Morocco's strengths to a global audience of both local and international investors. This week is therefore an utmost important to us. So I would like to seize this occasion to congratulate all the partners of the Morocco Pavilions for the rich content planned for these economic weeks. The great teamwork that was undertaken is today being materialized with the participation of a very senior and distinguished Moroccan delegation, a delegation that is confirming the commitment and the mobilization of all private and public stakeholders in building and promoting our Moroccan economic hub. We are looking forward to the contribution of the most senior national and international speakers on some of the important topics of our times in Morocco and beyond. We are looking forward to discuss the new opportunities that are rising today in a world that is witnessing profound changes in its value chains. Climate change and the priority of building a more sustainable world for the benefits of all, and in particular for the future generation, will be at the heart of our discussions. We will also highlight the multiple transformations that are affecting ways of doing business, as well as the importance of guaranteeing access of proper education and health for all. It's no secret for many of you today, such sectors like industry, tourism, or agriculture have gained significant support from large international conglomerates and investors who are still benefiting from an attractive investment climate and business-friendly environment that is being advocated in our country, first and foremost by the King, Mohammed VI, as well as the government entities involved. We will see and discuss the ways of further strengthening of growth and of these industries. Apart from these undeniable success stories, the Morocco Economic Week will also be an occasion to showcase the numerous investment opportunities that are lying ahead in Morocco in several sectors, and the enormous untapped potential that can be found in sectors such as pharmaceutical, textile, food industries, automotive industries, aviation industries, or others. It will also be an occasion to highlight the progress that has been made in recent years by Morocco in the process of digitalization and offshoring, which have positioned the kingdom as one of the emerging nations in innovation and technologies. I'm confident that all these topics will be the source of passionate debates and discussions all along this week to discover more thoroughly the exceptional dynamic that is currently witnessing our country. Finally, I would like to wish plenty of success to the Morocco Economic Week and the overall participation of Morocco to Dubai Expo. I wish you all a pleasant and fruitful walk. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Monsieur le Directeur Général. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, for the last 600 days, the public and private sector have been working hand in hand under the leadership and guidance of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. So I think it's emblematic for this launch of a public brand, for economic brand, to have the chairman of the Moroccan Business Association, Shakib Lalish. Please, would you come to the floor and give us your thoughts about what's happening today?
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador of Emirate to Morocco, and Mr. Imad, General Director of the SMID, Monsieur Youssef El-Bari, the General Director of IMDE, dear guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure that I am standing here today at the launch of the Morocco Week. I would like to congratulate the General Commissioner and her team for their outstanding work. As you can see, the Morocco Pavilion is a great achievement. I would like to thank IMDE for partnering with the CGM to elaborate the economic program for this week through the different conferences that will be held today and tomorrow. We aim to give our international guests a global view of Morocco as an investment destination and more, and highlight why Morocco now. When I started doing business 35 years ago, ça me rajeunit pas, mais I can tell you that being an entrepreneur was not easy. As any of my fellow Moroccan business leaders, I faced many challenges. Financing was not very accessible. The relationship with the administration was pretty complex. Infrastructure was rather basic, limiting market opportunities beyond established roads. Entrepreneurs still managed to make it work with determination and passion. For the last 20 years, the Kingdom has embarked on a transformative journey, making it one of the most attractive investment destinations, not only in the region, but in the world, recognized for its political stability and geographic location. Several large-scale reforms were implemented, ensuring the stability of the country's institutional and macroeconomic framework. Moreover, a massive development of infrastructure was achieved through a doubling of electrical capacity, a very important increase in the size of highways network, a major port development with Tanger Med as the first container port in Africa, Nador Med is under construction, and Dakhla Atlantic to be launched very soon. Morocco has also accelerated its industrialization and employment levels through targeted sectorial policies with impressive and globally recognized success stories in automotive and aeronautics, associated with dedicated professional training program to upskill local workforce to international standards. Additionally, the Kingdom has confirmed its position as a gateway to African markets. Moroccan company has significantly grown their presence across the continent, and thousands of international companies have been choosing Morocco as their preferred continental platform, thanks to its competitiveness and its over 60 free trade agreements. All of these achievements have resulted in making Morocco a prosperous and secure environment for doing business, as confirmed by many international reports. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I can speak for all the audience when I say that this pandemic caught us by surprise and made our economy very vulnerable. Thanks to a close collaboration, as you said, between the public and the private sector, particularly within the Economic Intelligence Committee, Morocco is cited worldwide as an example of having managed this major crisis with courage and anticipation under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI. Through a large and well-coordinated vaccination campaign, more than 20 million citizens are now fully protected against the pandemic, and a third dose is being administered at the moment. On the economic level, Morocco has adopted pragmatic and strong measures to support companies affected by the crisis. Despite the difficulties, Moroccan enterprises have demonstrated exceptional agility and a great sense of patriotism and solidarity in standing together with the authorities, not only to face this pandemic, but also to substitute imports. COVID-19 has indeed sparked a new wave of innovation across many industries, and a strong ambition to be at the center of the new global value chains, which is being redesignated. On the social level, besides supporting families and informal workers, Morocco launched a generalization of social protection, one of the most important reforms now. This action confirmed that the Kingdom has realized very early that out of crisis, game-changing opportunity could emerge, and that the post-pandemic recovery is a momentum to be seized to make its economy more resilient and more inclusive. This dynamic is now even more reinforced with the upcoming implementation of the new development model of Morocco. In 2019, His Majesty the King has appointed a special committee of experts in many fields to conduct a reflection on how to unleash energies and accelerate the march of economic and social progress. The report of the new development model was released last May. It provides a pragmatic and concrete recommendation to encourage investment and achieve a steady and sustainable growth, generating added value and job opportunities for Moroccans. We, the private sector, are very much aligned with the learning and recommendations shared by this model. CGM has elaborated a livre blanc to be released this week, the end of this week, that propose concrete implementation measures to enable our country to enter a new wave of growth. In order to get there, boosting industrialization, reinforcing even more the competitiveness of industrial players, and promoting the Made in Morocco and the Made with Morocco. Our priorities, especially with the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement that will give access to 1.2 billion consumers. These ambitions can only be achieved by further reducing energy logistics and land ownership and rent cost and accessibility. The new development model proposes that for that matter, to use energy as a lever for attractiveness and development by reducing it by 50% of the actual cost. This will support the decarbonation and the industry, the decarbonation of the industry and stimulate growth. Furthermore, women capital is at the center of the new development model. The offer in terms of professional training will be led by the private sector, which guarantees a high level of qualification, reinforces competitiveness, and promotes innovation. Talking about innovation, Morocco is willing to create a suitable environment to attract innovative players and encourage R&D and digitalization. Ladies and gentlemen, for these reasons and many more, Morocco now seems obvious and natural. By choosing Morocco, an investor chooses growth, chooses innovation, chooses visibility, chooses stability, and chooses access to a vibrant continent where the future is at play. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you have such talented speakers, you almost did my job, Mr. Chairman. So you spoke about determination, passion, ambition. That's what brings us all together. It is my privilege now to go to the reveal of the new Moroccan economic brand. And for this, I call to the floor Mr. Youssef El Bari, who is a member of this new generation of public servants that His Majesty called upon responsibilities in his speech on October 2018. Mr. El Bari, you have the huge responsibility of showing us the new product.
Thank you. Excellences, Monsieur l'Ambassadeur, Monsieur le Président de la CGM, Monsieur le Directeur Général de la SMIT, honorable présence. Permettez-moi tout d'abord de remercier tous les participants à la Semaine économique du Maroc, qui sera l'occasion d'exposer le potentiel économique
Moroccan Investment Week, which is gathering all stakeholders around the diversified theme. As you know, during this time of configuration of the global chain, lots of opportunities are being available in the kingdom to attract different investment opportunities. The activity of Morocco has been done in different sectors. The objective now is to consolidate the assets and to solidify the performance of Morocco in export goods and services. I'm honored and privileged today to introduce you a new formula of investment in Morocco. The global economy is facing several challenges, such as climate change, which making the transition to low carbon production essential. Also, the organization of global value chain towards regional hubs, allowing a safer and more competitive supply following the COVID-19 crisis. And finally, the strong recovery shows the need to invest in new capacities in several sectors to meet the demands. For its part, Morocco is ready and it has stability and long-term vision in Morocco that has built a strong national unity and solid institution around the monarchical pact. And long-term vision under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, may God preserve him, Morocco has just defined its roadmap 2021-2035 through the new development model. Over the last 20 years, Morocco has sped up the pace of transformation, especially by signing 54 free trade agreements. Morocco is the only country in Africa to have a free trade agreement with the United States by building a first trade and transport infrastructure, and #1 with its quality in Africa and the high-speed train in Africa and Tangier mid projects. Morocco has also invested $6 million in renewable energy to reach a capacity of 4 gigawatts in 2021, and investments continue. This has enabled Morocco to emerge as a leading production and export platform in the region. And in Morocco, industry accounts for 25% of GDP. Morocco is the fastest growing automotive cluster in the world, is leading automotive producer in Africa.
Now is the time to ask the right questions. In any endeavor, there's always the ground and the tipping point. Ensuring stability for a high economy takeoff. People's trust towards their leaders and towards their will to uplift their societies. Investing in people to a better life, giving an opportunity to develop their skills, their goals, and their vision to the world, building infrastructure to connect within and reach the world, calling for openness, and make sure you have partners to trade with. And then there is the uniqueness. It could be your history, it could be your diversity, it could be how strategically you're located, it could be your culture, it could also be your dedication, or it could be your natural resources. But first and foremost, to reach the heights, you need a vision, great ambitions, stay focused and stick to the plan, build upon the assets, value the old and embrace the new. Keep on growing talents to face challenges. Always be sure you can fuel the growth and that you have partners to overcome drawbacks together. Now is the time to be ahead. Now is the time for agility and sustainable acts. Now is your time.
This video, which reflects our vision of Morocco now, is based on 4 distinctive pillars, which are sustainability, competitiveness, guarantee of success, agility. As for sustainability, Morocco is ready for low-carbon production. It's the first producer of renewable energy in Africa. It has 37% of energy mix in renewable in 2020. The target is 52% in 2030. As for competitiveness, Morocco offers best cost option based on competitive production and cost in the world, and it will be number 1 in 2023 after China, and also thanks to its free trade agreements. As a guarantee of success, Morocco has a history of success in the execution of mega projects, industrial infrastructure, which would not have been possible without the investment made to improve the skills of our youth. 152,000 young graduates to industrial destination each year, and Morocco has agility, adaptation capacity, which is part of DNA of Morocco, which was amplified by the COVID-19 crisis to deployment of vaccination. To conclude, this successful transformation built on a long-term vision that has harnessed the potential of our resources. We are forward-looking and ready to welcome new investors. I wish the Economic Week meeting every success and invite you to discover, thanks to the experts, the advantage of the low-carbon competitive platform for your investment. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Directeur Général. Thank you.
General
we will now
Manager.
have our 4 key witnesses who will speak and give their testimony about what's happening in Morocco right now et pourquoi c'est le temps du Maroc. Et pour cela, je commencerai par...
So we'll explain why I will invite Megalis Vedo to join us. And please give her a round of applause.
So I think Morocco is very happy to have an emblematic banker such as yourself come and give a testimony about what's happening in Morocco. You're European. You work for one of the largest American banks, Citi, and your markets are Africa and the Middle East. So you must have some Moroccan blood in your veins because we've only seen this kind of globality in Morocco. So Miguel, you've been evolving, looking at Morocco, seeing how it progresses through the years. You've just closed a major IPO for a Moroccan and European company at the stock market in Amsterdam. So you see the globalization of Morocco, you see the changes that are undergoing in this country. How do you see the actual trend in Morocco?
Very good morning, everyone. Let me try to share views on that. I'm definitely not an expert in Morocco. I'm a frequent visitor, and I've been lucky in meeting quite a few companies. I really see it as a country, as an economy, as a society that brings everything together, right? It's close to Europe. As European connectivity is very good. Ability to export, I think this will be far and far more important into the future as Europe wants to be supplied from closer countries. As it's, I think, a relatively new Africa strategy, which is bolstered by the African Free Trade Agreement. And we have seen a few Moroccan companies, namely the banks, leading the way downwards, southwards. So that's very interesting. And with the Middle East MENA hat, I also see Morocco as becoming more even a target destination for investment from some of the sovereign wealth funds here from the region. So really an exciting place. And I think he has done quite a lot in the recent past in terms of infrastructure, in terms of education, in terms of the ease of doing business, and maybe we can discuss that a bit later.
So, you know, there is this key word that is going relentlessly in all conversations right now, which is reconfiguration of value chains. And like in the hospitality business, location is becoming essential. And when you have a country like Morocco, do you think that there is opportunity for these reconfiguration of value chains to bring more industrial investments in some critical areas such as medicines or other ones?
Yeah, so for that to happen, you have to have two things. One is demand, i.e. the destination countries willing to move to new locations, typically closer locations, but you also have to have the supply side. And on the supply side, I typically say that there are 5 items that a country needs to check. One is good politics. I think Morocco is the best example in the Mediterranean and a great example of stability. You have to have good policies, and by this I mean, not many surprises. Everything needs to be, kind of normal, rational,
consistency.
Consistency. So that also ticks the box. Then I would say strong macroeconomics, and in a quick and dirty manner, if you look at the FX rate, Morocco tells you everything. Very stable and very well-managed macroeconomy. And microeconomics, and that's probably where something needs to keep being doing. The ease of doing business, being open, being export-driven, being more open to competition, more open to the outside markets. And finally, I would call friendly foreign direct and indirect investment. And I think here what I just want to make is the point on the stock exchange. Casablanca has been quite an active stock exchange, has been in all the forums I go, Casablanca Stock Exchange is there. But I still think that as a market, it needs to become more sort of better known for international investors and to be on the map of investing. Probably that will require some sort of partnership with a leading global stock exchange so that liquidity is not an issue. But I think that's part of the plan. So I'm also very, very excited with that. So honestly, on the sort of 5 elements that needs to be met, I think Morocco is scoring pretty high.
So great, so the 5 elements. And of course, the core issue is consistency. And as you know, Morocco is a 1,300 years country, so it's a very old country, but very young with its demographics. Miguel, as a banker, how do you see the foreseeable challenges once we enter the recovery mode, once we will have all of the effects of the unknown that just happened that will change the macroeconomics? How do you see the big challenges that intermediate countries such as Morocco has to tackle?
I think, that's not an easy question, but let me see what I can say here. I think rational decision-making is going to be critical. Some countries will have it, some countries will not have it. I think Morocco is in a great position. I think Morocco used this crisis in a positive manner to actually speed up a few things. As they say, you never waste a good crisis. Not every country has done that, unfortunately. I think competition will be tough because a lot of countries will be aiming to fill that role. Even sort of in the Northern Africa space, I think Egypt is also doing a good job. So in a sense, will be a good competitor. But I still think that Morocco is far better positioned than quite a few other African countries if you look southwards as well. So I think it will be probably a winner of this crisis. And in these things, it's also important to have some success stories on which you can build upon. And we have seen a few here in this video, but let me also just share with the audience, and you mentioned it, the Majorel IPO. I've been following that particular group, Saham, for quite a few years, and I remember 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5, Majorel was kind of a sidekick. It was a small company, and no one really paid much attention to it, But in the last few years, it became a global company, clearly not 100% Moroccan in the sense that there are 2 main shareholders, but clearly with Moroccan DNA, Moroccan base, and look what it is now, right? It's the 2nd biggest BPO provider in the world. It's listed in Amsterdam. It's $4 billion market cap. That's not a small company. That's quite a big company. And that just tells you that with the right policies, building on the right foundations, in a few years you can actually make a good business and a big business these days. And that's the world we are living. Everything is faster than before.
Okay, so to sum up, we need more Moroccan African champions, and size matters. We need a bigger access to markets and to be able to go across all of these markets.
Yes, size matters, but size comes with the right policies. It's a consequence. It's not a starting point. And I think that's a source of good expectations and hope. And I think we are in the right place here, to be honest.
Thank you very much, Miguel, for your testimony. You know, and we had the view from the West, and as you know, since 2000, Morocco has diversified its economic ties, and we are leaning towards the East. Let me remind everyone that to this day we have 60% of the Moroccan population that is fully vaccinated, partly thanks to an alliance with China. So that means that Morocco is looking at the East as well, and I have the great privilege of calling not a man but a legend, because we have V. Shankar with us today, an amazing banker and now the head of a private equity firm, Gateway. Thank you, Mr. Shankar, for being with us. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that kind introduction. All untrue, but anyway.
So, you know, when you're being modest, it's the only way to get praised 2 times. Because you say to someone, you're great, he says no, he said, yes, you're great. So he got 2 compliments for the price of 1. I think that your presence today tells a lot about these new ambitions of Morocco, is that we have now strategic and economic policies where we go all over the world. We're ready to rock the East, rock the West, rock the North, rock the South. So what's your take about Morocco's journey? How do you see our country from your perspective?
In one word, a huge success. I mean, look at the way that Morocco handled the COVID. From a health perspective, the outcomes have been fantastic in terms of vaccinations, as well as mortality, the lowest in Africa. In terms of the social angle, the bold reform at that point of time to introduce medical insurance and social safety nets, but also the economic stimulus program that Morocco did at that point of time, 11%, if I recall, of the GDP. But also, from a perspective of seizing that opportunity of the crisis. In Chinese, we always talk about crisis and opportunity effectively being the same symbol. And that's what...
They're the same symbol?
Yeah, more or less, yeah, absolutely. And so that's what Morocco has done, now looking at manufacturing vaccines, which could be a game changer for the continent, but also a bold move into potentially pharmaceuticals, not just vaccinations. And also taking this opportunity to increase the digitization of government. Again, I think they all talk to a country that is agile, that is decisive, that is responsive. And I know at the end of the conversation with Miguel, you said size matters. Absolutely, size matters. But in today's world, I think the winners are going to be those who are fleet of foot and nimble of mind. Agility, even more important than size. Size follows.
Okay, so agility is key. And we've seen in the last sequence that Morocco was able to reorient part of its industrial sector in order to produce masks and all instruments that are barriers to the COVID. But you know the rule of the game. We need money as well. And you are the person that can tell us when you want to make the connection between capital and opportunity. How can a medium-sized country like Morocco do it?
Look, when any investor looks at a country as a potential destination investment, what do they look for? 3 S's: safety, security, and stability. And Morocco scores well on all counts. Miguel talked about the exchange rate stability. Also, Casablanca, I agree, has room to grow, but it is the second largest stock exchange in Africa. And even if you look at the macroeconomic fundamentals, the savings rate in Morocco is 27% of GDP, which is far higher than anywhere else in Africa, which is on an average about 15%. So it's, and then you've got stable policies. So the 3 S's, I think, are very important, and that attracts. The other one I would add is the infrastructure in Morocco. Unparalleled in Africa, but very good even in global terms, much better than India for that matter. And last but not the least, I think Morocco's big advantage is what I call its economic geography. Being at the intersection of sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, and Europe, it is really a gateway. The fact that I work for Gateway Partners is just a side, but Morocco is the true gateway.
Well, I hope you don't have a copyright on the word economic geography, because I do think that Mr. El Bari, the head of AMDI, is something that he will look at, because it would work very good with this brand. But listen, you spend a lot of time as well in Singapore, so you know how ports are important. Morocco is projecting to build one of the largest ports in Africa in Dakhla, so we will have transatlantic projection. How do you see this port as being a catalyst for change in the geoeconomics?
It's not just Singapore. Look at what UAE has done. I mean, just by the focus on the transportation sector, making yourself connected to the rest of the world just is a powerful economic driver. I mean, having the Dubai ports, having a world-class airline, a world-class airport, and that's what Morocco is trying to do as well, and is on its journey. So I think it's got a huge effect. And moreover, in Africa, everybody knows, as logistics is really poor. So Morocco has a real advantage by improving its logistics and its ports and its airports, it's the railway system and the airports, in having a decisive advantage in the context of Africa. And I think Africa is going to be a huge market for Moroccan products.
Thank you very much, Vi. It's been enlightening to have the exchange with you. Could you please, ladies and gentlemen, give a round of applause to our guests? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, to illustrate that Morocco has absolutely no complex, we can do English, we can do French, and we have gender equality in all the panels. So it's my great privilege to call on the first witness coming from the north. Venant du Nord, nous avons voulu également avoir
we also want to have the testimony who comes from a more traditional market of Morocco and Europe. So we have the guest who is going.
But now we're going to talk about soft and legal. The experience of coming to Morocco when you want to do business to Morocco.
How are you, Chloe? You see how Morocco is attractive because we had to bring her from Casablanca to Dubai. So you have to tell us how you managed to get to Morocco 10 years ago, to spend 2 years only, but you ended up staying for 10 years. Yes, just to tell you the story, I arrived to Morocco 10 years ago. It was an opportunity that was given to me when I was working in a lawyer office in Paris, and it was within a context where our engagement for Africa was big, and the international lawyer offices started being aware that the model of development of Africa from Paris or London would have some limits. It was important to have very good knowledge of local businesses, and also to build relationships with authority to have competitivity advantages. So they asked me to set up in Morocco for 2 years. So I considered that opportunity outstanding, and I started practicing my job in the European market, which is mature, and it was suffering from the financial crisis of 2009. So I chose to practice in Morocco, a country with a strong potential. And I had obviously this country was open up to Africa, so that gave me the advantage. So we saw that history was in the making for Morocco. So I accepted with pleasure the opportunity, and I would say that I knew Morocco. I hadn't seen Morocco before, but I hadn't visited it for holiday or businesses, but I was assured, given the advantages of Morocco, considering that this is a country that's capable of attracting talented and retaining them, given the opportunities that it has, and also access to infrastructures that are long-lasting. And also when we have children we can offer them education which is appropriate for children of foreigners from other countries. So this is how it happens. You mentioned something that for many attendees here is economic stability. We have some people who came to Morocco beyond the stereotypes. When you arrived to Morocco in terms of life there, did you manage to have that transition easily, like access to education, access to health, and some crucial services when we want to settle down in a North African country? So did that work for you? Obviously, I faced all of that, and I am here to tell you how Morocco is attractive. I spent 2 years there, and then I ended up spending 10 years. So when you arrive in Morocco as a foreigners, we don't feel that you are lost. For children, in terms of education, there are very different options for education. Also for medical services, we can have them according to international standards. So it was a successful experience. If you want to go beyond the experience of being as an expatriate, how did you familiarize with the legal judicial system? Legislation we see now in Morocco is advancing, and everything that's progressing for doing business and compliance, what allow us to have judicial security. How would you judge the Moroccan performance in this field? For us, judicial consultancy, we are the first line compared to foreign investors. The first exchange we had with international customers is that we had more than 60% of people who wanted to have to settle down for their activities in Morocco. And during the first exchange, many of them were asking us, do you advise us to do business in Morocco? Does Morocco have a strong judicial arsenal to help us settle down here? So people would be optimistic, but we can always assure them. So I was thinking at the time that there was some aspects that needed improvement. However, 10 years later, it became much easier for me. And I think that we discussed with different speakers at the beginning of this event. Morocco has done some very deep improvements and reforms that allowed us to attract foreign investors and to open their appetite for investment that happened in the midst of growth and development in the last decades. This industrial sector, we spoke about automotive sector, aviation sector, real estate, education, energy. So there are lots of improvements. I can give you a long list of what has changed. Regarding your customer, did you feel a change in the perception regarding the image of Morocco, its activity, and to break the stereotypes? Yes, this is something that we can feel on a daily basis from the foreign investors who settle down in Morocco. When you are a foreign investor, you want to have your project in Morocco. The first step is to establish a company in Morocco. 10 years ago, that would take a very long time. Now, given the modernization that the country is witnessing, things have become easier, and also all the steps for investment have been centralized, so we can gain so much time also for regulations. You know that regulation also has helped in that field, and for foreign investors, this can be something that would scare them at the beginning. Morocco has implemented lots of reforms to make regulation to give trust to investors, and there has been some formalities that people can do, and they can make exports, for example, of products. And this is a change that we can perceive on a daily basis. it's not me who say that, but people who are objective, as you can see, people who lived in Morocco. So we can take advantage of having her with us, so we can rely on our colleagues to help us on how to do business with these people who are very active during the pandemic of COVID. We have seen an increase and improvement in the digitization and for the private sector. So lots of things that we thought before are impossible have become possible, like authentication of digital signature. Lots of reforms that happened thanks to COVID and will remain in the legislative arsenal. Thank you very much, Chloe. It was a pleasure to have you with us. So I started by introducing Yusuf Al-Ba'i and saying that he's from the first line of people since the opening of the parliament by the king, and who say that there will be young faces, and Nizha Hayat came a little bit earlier, and we are pleased to have her with us. She's the boss of financial market. So this is Morocco: diversity, equality, and new faces. How are you, Nizha? I am very well, and I am very pleased to be here with you in this excellent pavilion. Also very happy to be with my friends from the private sector. I very much advocated to move forward things for economy and financial sector. Nizha Hayat, and I have lots of questions because you can touch base different subjects for economy and financial sector. Since you took charge in 2016 of the market, what are the options for the companies for this new authority to put it at the international standards? When I took charge in 2006, it was to transform an institution which was being transformed in terms of authority in market, and also for a more global vision of the market to provide this sector with regulation authorities. We have the World Bank, for example, in Morocco, the market of capitals, and the authority of monitoring insurances. So my first task was to set up the organization which would accompany this independence, and also to set up two entities, because there's the board of the organization that I chair, but there is an entity to which I do not belong, which is the organization chaired by a judge, and it's a body that builds the files for investigations, and this can be more useful, and it guarantees also independence. Yes, it does. There has not been a case where I would be reluctant to do it. But anyway, the law did not stipulate punishment from the board of sanctions, but it's not the case yet. What we should mind is that the mission of the Moroccan authority of the capital markets, we need to have financial instruments and to enhance monitoring and surveillance missions with more digitization, because the market, which is the second market of capitals for Africa, and some speakers said that too, we know that this is something that we try to amend with more efforts of public communications, but our task is also based on the good functioning of the market. And to achieve that, you also need to make sure that it evolves and develops to serve the financing of the economy. And this is the new approach that we are building. So this is why the Special Commission of Development, chaired by Shakib bin Musa, who was named Minister of Education and Sport, has identified clearly the capital markets as a leverage for building economy, given the place of Morocco. From your point of view, how do you see evolution of this financial market and the new challenges that the world is facing, and what are the new market and the factors to make it successful? What we did 5 years ago is that along with the Minister of Economy and Finance, we worked on legislation, regulation that are more agile, so that text of law that will govern a market or an activity, whether it's the securities market, a term market, and the law would stipulate the general principles and the features and we would review them and see if we need some innovation. So this is this notion of agility that Yusuf Al-Ba'i has mentioned. Yes, absolutely. So we in parallel, we realize that we can do things without having them go through the law. And in Marrakesh, after I joined a few months later, we published the first guide in Africa of green bonds, which was followed immediately with the first emission permazed for this for the journalist. I will explain what is Madazet. So it was like the right arm of the state for the renewable energies and solar energies. So we don't say that much, but we have regulations and a market that is organized according to international standards. Our contribution at the level of the market with the entities that govern all of this and that gathers regulating authorities like UNIT. We are very active within different technical committees, and even on some topics that are around the fintech, some things like the crowdfunding, that we are also working on it, and I hope that in a few weeks there will be circulars issued about it, and that will instill a new dimension for the startups. So what you are doing is that you trying to make some amendments and also to help push the legislation. First, we don't have the choice. What we did is that for more developed markets, the initiative comes from operators. This is why we put the highlight on development, and we would say we would initiate. We always told the operators that we made some amendments to the law and OPCB. And I hope that the Chamber of Consultants would support us, and there would be many possibilities to approve some funds of currencies and attract foreign investors, and to have funds that are more adapted to different types of investors, and funds for different sectors, and funds for public. So our model is to be always listening and try to stick to the law, and also I'm happy Madame Nadia Al-Fattah is chairing the Ministry of Finances, as she was appointed by the king. And we need to make things more efficient and more pragmatic, and this the deadlines are being brought down. We know that there are lots of transitions, and what is very important for international investors is the quality of public officials. You are in charge of the private sector. Plus, there is additional complexities putting a woman within a field that is very masculine. How do you think this transition for CGM to be acting like a public entity? I worked at a banking entity before taking the new position. We can serve for the private sector by working with different associations, because women, they can contribute more to socio-economic development of the country. And before taking the position in 2016 to a public position, I like many other women, there was a problem of the challenges, and you need a lot of tenacity for you as a woman to build your career. And this is not our only case, but many other countries. When we have a woman who has to go through this long path, yes, there was a willpower, and I was thinking, why not me? And I also have the chance to do it, because I started my career abroad, and I found myself coming back to Morocco, and I had the chance to do it. A country where, under the leadership of His Majesty the King, a woman started finding the right place, and I think we should pay tribute to the King for appointing a woman as Minister of Finance, which is outstanding modernization of the country. Absolutely, this is something that seldomly happens. There are not many women in the financial sectors at such a position of presidents or general managers. So after this career, when we reach the public sector, especially when you are appointed by His Majesty the King, for me, the challenge, since I went to I supported different associations and also the club of women administrators of enterprise. Like for the audience, there has been some changes in the legislations. They are now, it's mandatory to have at least 42% by gender within the board. I can tell you that since 2016, since independent administrators had to be nominated, we started seeing women being appointed. I don't know what it feels like when women come with the files of financing. So there is some vision from the side of the king that has supported me a lot. The challenge and that I had when I arrived or took that position, it was less hard because I came with the mindset of private sector. I went to modernity, agility, flexibility, and I didn't have any problem sharing with my teams, but also with the ecosystem, this knowledge and for you to share this service. And also we we have with different ecosystem, whether it's enterprises, security companies, management companies, activities that are in continuous growth, so the volume and the impact would be multiplied with the emergence of Fund Mohammed VI for investment. So the fact to be listening and also at the service of the ecosystem has helped a lot, and this is what I was worried not to understand at the beginning, but it was easier than I thought. Thank you very much, Neza Hayat. Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen, yes, you can applaud her. You have seen during this round, this tour of the world in 40 minutes, we have showcased that Morocco combines heart, reason, material and immaterial capital. So we hope that will be successful. Thank you very much.